Hey y'all, welcome back to the Project DIY channel. On today's project, we're going to put an Android 10.2 inch car stereo head unit in my 2020 Rav4. Let's get started. Alright guys, so my 2020 Rav4 is an LE model, and it has the lower end of everything that Toyota offers in it, and that includes the stereo head unit. Now the stereo head unit in this Rav works fine. The only issues I have with it are more aggravations than anything. And I don't know if you can tell from the video, but the screen on this head unit looks okay right now because we're not in direct sunlight. However, you get this thing in direct sunlight and it's almost impossible to see the screen. I was backing up the other day to hook up our camper to the Rav, and I could not see well enough to use the backup camera to line up the hitch. It's terrible, it really is. Now I don't think there's anything wrong with the stereo. Everything seems to work correctly, but the screen is just, you can't see through it. It's like you're shining a flashlight right up directly on the screen, and it makes it hard to see other times too. At night it's fine, daytime not so much. And I've tried messing with the settings, you know, adjusting the brightness, contrast and that kind of thing, and it just has not helped any at all. So because of all that, I decided to go out and buy a replacement head unit for the Rav. Now one issue I quickly ran into is that there are not very many units out there to replace this with. As you can see, this unit sticks up over top of the dash, and it's really not the shape of a normal car stereo. And I think most all of today's cars are going to this style of stereo. But because of that, I had a really hard time finding anything. Now what I did find was this unit here. And this is a 10.2 inch display Android car stereo, and I got this off of Amazon. The brand is a Dasaita, and according to the reviews, it works really well. This particular model was built specifically for this Toyota style stereo, so there are a few things we have to adjust on it to make it fit correctly, but it shouldn't be a big deal. Now surprisingly, this thing came with all of the cables and everything pretty much that you need to integrate the stereo into the Rav4. It has a CAN bus adapter on it so that you don't lose any of your steering wheel controls. It has the adapter cable to adapt for your backup camera. Alright, so here's the steps we're going to go through to put this in. We're going to remove the factory stereo, unplug all the wiring harness from it, set it aside, and then we're going to make a few adjustments to our new head unit. There's some screw adjustments you have to make to move the unit up or down to get the back cover from the old head unit to fit on it. So we're going to make those adjustments, and then we will wire everything up and we'll pop it into place, and that's pretty much it. Should be an easy installation. Start by getting this cover off the back. From what I understand, you simply poke a spudging tool down in the crack, lift up on it, both corners, and there's that. And we'll hang on to that because that will go on the back of our new unit. All right, next, there are two 10mm bolts. On either side. We'll take those out. So there's 4 bolts altogether. Show you where those are at. I think you can see them down in there. There's 2 on either side. And once you have those 4 bolts out, you can simply grab a hold of it, pull on it, and it pops right out. All right, next we're going to get everything unhooked. All these plugs in the back simply have a little tab on them you push down that unlocks them when you pull them out. There we go, old unit out. Now on the back of the old unit, there's a cover panel that has to go on the new unit, so we're going to take that off. 4 screws hold that in. A couple more screws at the bottom. So once you have those out, you can simply pop the clips out. Take this back piece off. Like I said, we will need this. Now on this front bezel that was on the old radio, we will need these little red plastic clips here. Those have to go on the new one so that the back can snap onto it. So we'll take a small screwdriver, just pry those out. All right, now we can start making some adjustments to our new stereo. As you can see, this has 2 screws down here, and the problem with the way it is set up right now is the stereo is too high on the screen and the back cover won't fit. So what you have to do is take these 2 screws out, move this down a notch, and I think only 1 screw will fit back in it, but then you put the screw, 1 screw in each side, and that's enough to hold it. Put that back in, and that drops the radio down far enough to get that back cover on. Alright, so I got that moved down a notch. And that should allow us to have room to put the backing plate back on it. Alright, now that we got all that done, we should be able to start wiring this up. So the first thing we have is our power harness. And so these will really only go one way. None of these plugs are the same, so you really can't get this wrong. But plug the black into the black. White into that white. This white into that black. have a connection over here. Plug that in. And I think these other 3 connections we won't be using. I think everything else is plugged up correctly. Alright, I'm going to flip this back up on top. Of course, this is your antenna. It's going to plug in there. This one is going to plug in over here. There we go. Next we have our Wi-Fi antenna, which goes over here on this side, labeled Wi-Fi. Alright, next we have an external USB connector that we could use. I'm not going to use this. I really don't use USB connectors all that much, but you could use it for a storage device or thumb drive or something like that. Now this plug on this cord plugs in there, and then we just got to match these up. Sub 2, sub 1, we won't be using those. We're just using all of our stock front right out. Let's see, camera in. Alright, next is your USB for the USB port down here in the bottom, where you would hook your phone up at. And it comes with 2 pieces. Not sure why they do this, but plug these 2 together, and this end goes in the stereo on the bottom corner over here. Sorry, it goes up here. And the other end of this plugs into one of the extra plugs that we had. There we go. Plug that up. That will just get stuff down in the inside here. One of these is labeled front camera, and that's actually something I may play with as far as adding a front camera to this, because I don't have one. But with auxiliary video in and camera in. The aux video in can be used for an external DVD player or something weird like that you might use. And lastly, we have a GPS antenna. That's going to plug in right here and screw on the back. Now for right now, I'm just going to stick this up inside the dash. If I have a problem with it, I may move it somewhere else. So once we have all that wiring taken care of, we'll shove it all back in here. And then this should snap right in. Just like that. And then figure out what I did with the cover. It goes on the back. This should snap back in. Just like that. Nice clean install. Alright, let's fire it up and test it out. Alrighty. It's going to be kind of hard to see because of the glare. Turn the key on. Let's see, do we have a power button? All right, one thing I need to show you right quick. This connector right here that has the large yellow wire in it connects to the gray connector. I had it connected to the black connector and it does not work. It does have to connect to the gray connector. All right, now we got all that wiring straightened out. Turn the key on. Oh, it's telling me my hatch is open, and it is. All right, one thing I want to check real quick is I want to make sure my backup camera works. Okay, my hatch is up, but it does work. So that's good. Very clear, nice and clear. I'm going to put that hatch down. All right, and it does tell you when your car door's open. It's pretty cool. That is like a screensaver. Try that reverse camera one more time. Nice. Nice and clear. Much better than the other one. Alright guys, it's been about a week later, and I wanted to come back before we end this one and give you a little review of the Dasaita Rav4 head unit, and let you know some of the things I like and some of the things I dislike. So one of the biggest things I like, and it's the biggest reason why I switched my old unit out, is the screen. The screen on this unit is very bright. In fact, it's a little too bright sometimes, and I have not yet figured out how to make the screen brightness go up and down with daylight and dark. It could be possible that I have messed with some settings and got that off. I have been all through the settings and changed different things, seeing what they'll do, and it's possible I could have got a setting screwed up. All right, the backup camera is awesome. It's 10,000 times better than what I had before. The only thing I dislike about it is my Rav has the blue lines encoded into the camera. The camera is what makes those lines, and I can't make those go away. So I don't necessarily care for that. That's not a fault of the head unit. That's has to do with the camera itself. I may end up changing that camera out just to get rid of those lines, but the setup on this head unit has lines on it, and those lines do turn when you turn the wheel, which makes it much easier to back into parking spaces. The radio works as expected. I set all the stations in local to me, and they all work fine. No issues there. The Bluetooth phone connection works perfect. It doesn't seem to provide any caller ID, and there again, that may be a setting on my part that I have gotten incorrect, but it seems to work pretty good. Now, one thing I've not been able to figure out is how to get text messages on here. Now, what I usually do is I use the standard UI that comes with the head unit, and I use my hotspot on my phone, turn that on, and then connect this to that hotspot, and that gives me pretty much everything on my phone exactly like I would normally use it. Podcasts, music, you can watch YouTube while you're driving down the road for your passenger. I wouldn't advise the driver to do that. That'd be kind of scary. Let's not get no accidents or anything. It has Google Assistant built in, and that works fine, except for like my text messages, like I was saying. Now, there's other ways you can use this. It also has Apple CarPlay and Android Auto, and the advertisement says that only Apple CarPlay is wireless. However, as soon as I turned it on, I tried out the wireless for Android Auto, and it worked perfect. So evidently the description in the ad for this on Amazon, it's a little outdated. Android Auto does have wireless setup on it now, and it does work with this. Now, I don't necessarily care for Android Auto. It's okay. It seems to work pretty good on here. No issues there. But I like just the standard Android interface on this because it makes everything separate from my phone and makes it a lot easier for me to use it. Maps work perfectly. Like I say, as long as I've got my hotspot connected to it, maps work fine. I get perfect driving directions, no issues there. I also use Torque on here, and I have an OBD2 Bluetooth adapter plugged into my car on the OBD2 port, and Torque works perfect with it. It also has a really good equalizer. It has some presets for it. You can use the presets, or you can adjust it on your own, set it how you like it. And one thing it doesn't have that I wish it had was speed controlled volume. So whenever you're driving down the highway, you have your music turned up loud. You don't necessarily want it turned up whenever you pull up to the stoplight, and most cars have that, and it will turn down automatically. Not been able to figure out how to get this to do that. There's a couple of apps on the Play Store. I've tried those, none of those seem to work, so that's one issue I don't care for. Now, the settings are pretty much identical to any Android phone, and so if you have an Android phone, you'll definitely recognize these settings. And there are some extra things added. Car is one of them, and you have some stuff you can change here related to your vehicle. But that's pretty much it, guys. I really like it. It's much better than the stock head unit. The sound is really good. The screen is really good. It does exactly what I wanted to do. All right, guys, I appreciate you watching. Hopefully you learned something from this, and if you need to install an Android Auto head unit stereo in your Rav4, you'll be able to do that. It's not really that hard. It's pretty easy. I got this unit off of Amazon. I'll post a link in the description. So if you like this video, I think you should first of all press that like button, leave me a comment, let me know if you've had issues, any questions you might have. And while you're doing all of that, I think you should also watch this video.